It was a cold autumn morning when Daniel, a single father of two, hurried into the small-town grocery store. His 8-year-old daughter, Emma, held his hand tightly while his toddler son, Max, sat bundled in the shopping cart, half asleep. Daniel's life had been a whirlwind since his wife passed away 3 years ago, between working double shifts, packing lunches, and helping Emma with homework. Every day was a silent struggle masked by his gentle smile. That morning, he was running late for work after dropping the kids off at school, but Max had gotten sick and he had no choice but to stay home. The fridge was empty and the bills were piling up. He sighed as he grabbed some bread, milk and a few diapers, trying to calculate in his mind whether his debit card would even go through. As he reached the checkout counter, his eyes met the cashier's, a young woman named Lily. Her face was pale, her lips trembling and her hands shook violently as she scanned his items. Daniel noticed the tremor and instinctively asked, "Are you okay? Your hands are shaking." She froze for a second, biting her lip as if holding back tears. "I'm fine, sir. Just a little tired," she said softly. But Daniel could see the pain in her eyes. He knew that kind of exhaustion, the kind that didn't come from lack of sleep but from carrying the weight of the world alone. As Lily tried to scan the last item, the barcode wouldn't read. Her hands trembled harder, and the milk bottle nearly slipped. Daniel reached over gently, steadying it before it fell. "Take a breath," he said kindly. "No rush." She gave a faint smile, whispering, "Thank you." Emma, standing beside him, tugged on his sleeve and whispered, "Daddy." She looked sad. Daniel nodded slightly, unsure how to respond. He paid for the groceries and was about to leave when Lily suddenly muttered under her breath, "I'm sorry." Daniel turned back, confused. "Sorry? For what?" She blinked rapidly, her eyes glistening. "For taking too long. I haven't eaten since yesterday." Her voice cracked, and Daniel felt a lump rise in his throat. He looked down at the small name tag that read Lily Thompson, then at her frail figure and realized this wasn't just about hunger, it was about survival. Without thinking, he asked, "Do you get a break soon?" She nodded slightly. "In 10 minutes." He pushed the shopping cart aside and said, "Then wait for me. I'll be right back." 10 minutes later, Daniel returned with 2 cups of coffee and some sandwiches. He found her sitting outside on a bench, her arms wrapped around herself for warmth. She looked up, startled, as he handed her the food. "You didn't have to," she began, but he interrupted gently. "I know what it's like to skip meals so your kids can eat. Please, just take it." Her eyes widened, and a tear slipped down her cheek. She whispered, "You too." Daniel nodded, staring off into the distance. "Yeah, I lost my wife 3 years ago. Been trying to keep it all together ever since." Lily swallowed hard, looking at the steaming coffee in her hands. "My husband left last year," she confessed. "He said he couldn't handle our son's illness. I've been working 2 jobs just to afford his medicine." Daniel's heart ached at her words. 2 strangers, bound by the same silent war against life's hardships. They sat there quietly, sipping coffee as the cold breeze brushed past them. Before he left, Daniel said softly, "You're doing better than you think. Lily, don't give up." She smiled weakly, replying, "You too, Daniel. Maybe someday things will get easier." What neither of them knew was that this brief encounter would spark something extraordinary, an invisible thread of compassion that would soon change both of their lives forever. And as Daniel walked away, Emma turned around and waved at Lily, saying, "Bye. My daddy says good people always meet again." Lily smiled through her tears, not knowing how true that would soon become. 2 weeks later, Daniel returned to the same grocery store. He hadn't stopped thinking about Lily. Her fragile voice and trembling hands haunted his thoughts every night. Emma had even drawn a picture of the nice cashier lady and taped it to their fridge. But today something was different. When he reached the counter, Lily wasn't there. Instead, a new cashier smiled at him and said, "Oh, you must be Mr. Daniels. You're the one who helped Lily, right?" Daniel blinked, surprised. "Helped her? I just brought her lunch." The cashier chuckled softly. That meant the world to her. You don't know, do you? She quit her job last week. Daniel's stomach tightened. Quit? Why? The cashier hesitated, then said quietly, her son got worse. She had to take him to the hospital in the city. She said if she didn't come back, to thank the man who reminded her that kindness still exists. Daniel felt the air leave his lungs. He left the groceries behind and drove straight to the city hospital, guided by instinct more than logic. When he arrived, he asked at the reception for Lily Thompson. The nurse hesitated before pointing him to the pediatric wing. As he entered, he saw her sitting beside a hospital bed, holding her little boy's hand. The child's face was pale but peaceful. Lily looked up in shock when she saw him. "Daniel?" she gasped. "How did you—" He smiled gently. "I just had a feeling you needed a friend today." Her eyes welled up again, and this time she didn't hide the tears. "He's stable now," she whispered. "The doctors said the new treatment might actually work." Daniel noticed a hospital bill sitting on the chair beside her. It was enormous. Without a word, he took out his wallet and slid his debit card onto the table. "No," she said immediately, shaking her head. "I can't accept that." He looked her straight in the eyes. "You can, because someone once did the same for me when I had nothing. This isn't charity, it's a circle. You'll do it for someone else." Crying silently. "You have no idea how much this means," she said. "You've given me hope." Days passed and Daniel began visiting regularly, bringing meals, toys for her son, and quiet companionship for Lily. Slowly, she began to smile again. Emma and Max joined him sometimes, and the hospital room began to feel less like a place of sadness and more like a small family reunion. One evening, as the sun set beyond the hospital window, Lily said softly, "You asked me once why my hands were shaking that day." Daniel nodded. She smiled faintly and replied, "It wasn't hunger alone. It was fear that I couldn't do it anymore. But that day, when you brought me food and said not to give up, I realized I still had a reason to fight." Daniel's throat tightened as she reached over and took his hand. "You reminded me what faith looks like," she whispered. Months later, Lily's son recovered. She found a better job nearby and began volunteering at a local shelter for single parents. Daniel and his kids often joined her on weekends, serving food to others who were struggling. The circle of kindness had come full turn, and though neither had expected it, something gentle began to grow between them, something deeper than gratitude. It wasn't just love, it was understanding, born from pain and carried by hope. As they all sat together at a park one sunny afternoon, watching the children play, Lily turned to Daniel and said with a smile, "Funny how a simple question changed my life." He laughed softly. "And what question was that?" She looked at him, eyes shimmering. "When you asked why my hands were shaking." Sometimes the smallest moments hold the power to heal the biggest wounds. And sometimes one act of kindness is all it takes to change not just one life, but two families forever.